It is perhaps the most recognized religious object in history. You've seen it on the necks of grandmothers, soldiers, and saints. Mother Teresa handed them out like candy to dying beggars in Calcutta and to world leaders in the halls of power. She called it a simple token of love. It is small. It is usually made of cheap base metal, and it is everywhere. But this tiny oval object is not just a piece of jewelry. It is the physical evidence of a history so profound, so filled with inexplicable cures and stunning conversions that it earned a name whispered in awe by an entire city facing death: the Miraculous Medal. This isn't just a story about a sacramental. It is the story of a secret kept for 46 years and how a heavenly vision given to a nobody in 1830s Paris ignited a worldwide explosion of grace that hasn't stopped since. To understand the medal, you have to understand the silence from which it was born. Our story doesn't begin in a cathedral, but on a humble, gritty farm in Burgundy, France. The year is 1806. Zoé Labouret is born into the chaos of post-revolutionary France, the 9th of 11 children. Her life isn't romantic, it's hard work. It's the mud of the farm, the noise of a crowded house, and the quiet resilience of the peasantry. But at 9 years old, her world collapses. Her mother dies. For a child, this is the end of the world. But in that raw, jagged grief, young Zoe does something that foreshadows the rest of her life. Imagine the scene. A 9-year-old girl, tears still drying on her face, walking into her bedroom. She climbs up onto a chair to reach a small statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary on the shelf. She reaches out, clutches the statue, kisses it, and speaks into the empty room with the absolute shattering conviction of a child. "Now, dear lady, you will be my mother." In that moment, the farm girl named Zoe died, and a mystic was born. She didn't just find comfort, she forged a contract with heaven. As she grew, taking the name Catherine, this wasn't just a phase, it became her oxygen. She would wake up at 4 in the morning, walking miles in the freezing dark just to attend Mass before a day of back-breaking farm work. She was being pulled toward something she couldn't name. She even had a dream, a vivid, haunting image of an old priest celebrating Mass. In the dream, the priest looked right at her with eyes that seemed to know her soul and said, "My daughter, it is good to care for the sick. God has designs on you. Do not forget it." She woke up confused. She had no idea who he was. It wasn't until years later, walking into a house of the Daughters of Charity, that she saw a painting on the wall and froze. It was him, Saint Vincent de Paul, the priest from her dream. The sign was undeniable. Despite her father's attempts to distract her, even sending her to Paris to work in a restaurant, hoping the glamour of the city would break her resolve, she entered the novitiate at the Rue du Bac in April 1830. She was 24. She was exactly where she was meant to be. But let's talk about where she was. Paris in 1830 was not a vacation destination. It was a powder keg. The city was on a knife's edge, boiling with political turmoil and a violent, rising anti-religious sentiment. Outside the convent walls, there was fear. Inside, at 140 Rue du Bac, there was a supernatural intensity. Catherine began to see things. She saw the heart of Saint Vincent de Paul. She saw Christ as a crucified king, stripped of his glory, a terrifying omen of the chaos about to engulf France. But these were just the prelude. July 18th, 1830, the eve of the feast of Saint Vincent. Catherine went to bed clutching a tiny relic, a piece of cloth from the founder's vestments, and prayed with a singular, desperate audacity. She wanted to see the Mother of God. Not a dream. She wanted to see her. Around 11:30 at night, the silence of the dormitory was broken. A child's voice. "Sister Labouret, come to the chapel. The Blessed Virgin is waiting for you." Catherine opened her eyes. Standing there was a child of devastating beauty, bathed in light. Her first thought was deeply practical. "We'll be discovered. The others will wake up." The child simply smiled. "Do not be afraid. It is 11:30. Everyone is asleep. Come." Catherine dressed and followed. And here is where the reality bends. As they walked through the dark convent, The oil lamps were already lit. The heavy, locked door of the chapel swung open at the mere touch of the child's hand. Inside, the chapel was blazing with light, as if prepared for a midnight mass. Catherine knelt at the altar rail, and she waited. Silence. Then, the sound. Not a trumpet, not a choir. The faint, distinctive rustle of a silk dress moving across the floor. The child spoke. "Here is the Blessed Virgin." And there she was. A lady of perfect beauty sat in the spiritual director's chair. Catherine couldn't help herself. She rushed forward, fell to her knees, and rested her hands in the Virgin's lap. This wasn't a distant vision. It was physical. For what felt like 2 hours, the barrier between heaven and earth evaporated. Mary spoke to her about the coming sorrows of France, the blood that would run in the streets, the clergy that would be persecuted. But she also gave a command. "God wishes to charge you with a mission. You will be contradicted, but do not fear. You will have the grace." It was the most intimate conversation of Catherine's life. And then, like a shadow fading, the lady was gone. 4 months later, November 27th, 1830, Catherine is in the chapel again. The rustle of silk returns. This time, the visual is different. Mary stands on a globe, her feet crushing a serpent. Rays of light, dazzling and bright, are streaming from gemstones on her fingers. But Catherine notices a detail. Some of the gems are dark. No light comes from them. Mary explains the tragedy of unanswered prayer. The gems from which rays do not fall are the graces for which souls forget to ask. The message is clear. The treasury of heaven is full, but we aren't asking for the withdrawal. Then, the image shifts. An oval frame forms around the Virgin with gold lettering. "O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee." Pause for a second. This is 1830. The dogma of the Immaculate Conception, the official church teaching that Mary was conceived without sin, would not be declared by the Pope for another 24 years. Yet here was the theology, descending from heaven, ready to be stamped onto metal. The command was specific. Have a medal struck after this model. All who wear it will receive great graces. They should wear it around the neck. Graces will abound for persons who wear it with confidence. The vision rotated, showing the back. The large M, the cross, the 2 hearts, one crowned with thorns, one pierced by a sword, and the 12 stars. It was a complete catechism in a piece of metal. A weapon for the times ahead. Now Catherine had a problem. She was a novice. She had no power, no money, and no influence. She had to convince her confessor, Father Jean-Marie Aladel. And he did exactly what a prudent priest should do. He shut her down. He called it mere imagination. He told her to stop thinking about it. For 2 years, Catherine lived in the agony of a prophet silent. She was contradicted, just as Mary said she would be. But she was relentless. She kept coming back, humble, but immovable. The medal must be struck. Finally, worn down by her sanity and her humility, Father Aladel went to the Archbishop of Paris. They investigated. They found no hysteria, only obedience. The green light was given. The first medals were struck on June 30th, 1832, and they arrived just in time for the apocalypse. Paris, 1832. The Blue Death had arrived. A terrifying cholera epidemic swept through the city. It was a biological massacre. In a matter of months, 20,000 people died. The streets smelled of vinegar and death. Panic was absolute. There was no cure. Into this hellscape, the Daughters of Charity went out with the first batch of 1,500 medals. They didn't have antibiotics. They had these small pieces of metal. They pressed them into the fevered hands of the dying. They put them around the necks of the sick, and then the reports started coming in. Impossible recoveries. Entire wards protected. The dying standing up and walking out of hospitals. The people of Paris, skeptical, hardened Parisians, stopped calling it the Medal of the Immaculate Conception. They gave it a new name. They called it La Médaille Miraculeuse, the Miraculous Medal. The name wasn't marketing. It was a description of reality. The demand exploded. By 1834, 500,000 medals were in circulation. By 1835, 1 million. By 1876, over 1 billion. But the medal didn't just heal bodies. It hunted souls. Enter Alphonse Ratisbonne. The year is 1842. Ratisbonne is everything Catherine is not. Wealthy, male, intellectual, and Jewish. He hated the Catholic Church, a hatred fueled by his brother's conversion. He mocked the faith. While in Rome, a Catholic friend dared him to wear the medal and say the prayer, just to prove it was nonsense. Ratisbonne laughed and took the bet. It was a joke to him. A few days later, he wandered into the church of Sant'Andrea delle Fratte to wait for a friend. He was bored. He looked around with disdain, and then the universe shifted. The church disappeared into a blinding light. He saw her, standing on an altar, the exact figure from the medal around his neck. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She gestured for him to kneel. When his friend found him, the arrogant banker was on his face on the floor, sobbing so hard he couldn't speak. All he could say was, "I have seen her! I have seen her!" In one instant, his entire worldview was incinerated by love. He was baptized 11 days later. The medal had claimed another victory. But what about Catherine, the woman who started it all? This is the most stunning part of the narrative. While the medal was conquering the world, while popes and kings were talking about it, Catherine Labouré disappeared. She finished her novitiate and was sent to a hospice for old men outside Paris. She stayed there for 46 years. She peeled potatoes, she chased chickens, she changed the bedpans of dying men, and she told no one. Except for her confessor, not a single soul knew she was the visionary. She watched the medal become a global phenomenon from the silence of her kitchen. She didn't want fame. She didn't want credit. She was simply the courier who delivered the message and then went back to work. It wasn't until she was on her deathbed in 1876 that she finally revealed her identity to her superior. When she died, she was buried in a simple tomb. But the story has one final twist. In 1933, 57 years after her death, the church exhumed her body for her beatification. They opened the casket, expecting dust and bones. Instead, they found her sleeping. Her body was incorrupt, perfectly preserved. The eyes that had looked into the eyes of the Virgin Mary were still blue. It was a final, physical miracle, a stamp of approval from heaven on a life of hidden humility. This isn't ancient history. The promise of the medal is an open loop that continues today. All who wear it will receive great graces. In 1944, a black man named Claude Newman sat on death row in Mississippi, awaiting execution. He knew nothing of God. In a rage, a fellow inmate threw a medal at him. Claude put it on. That night, he felt a touch on his wrist. He woke to see the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She told him, "I am the Mother of God." That vision transformed a condemned criminal into a saintly figure who walked to the electric chair beaming with joy, astounding the guards and the chaplain. The Miraculous Medal is not a magic charm. It is not a superstition. It is a conduit. It is a physical sign of a spiritual reality, that we are not orphans, that we have a mother who is listening, who is waiting to pour out graces. If only we would ask. The rays of light are still there. Some are dark, waiting for your request to light them up. So I have to ask, what is your experience with this mystery? Do you wear the medal? Have you seen the inexplicable in your own life? Tell us your story in the comments. We need to hear them. And if you don't have one, go get one. Go to a parish, get a medal, have it blessed, and wear it. Test the promise. See what happens when you ask for the graces you've been forgetting to ask for. If this deep dive into history and faith moved you, hit the like button and subscribe. We are just scratching the surface of these stories. I'll see you in the next one.